Good morning, everyone. I am Kevin Friedlander, Senior Vice President of Communication and Events for the New Jersey Chamber of Commerce. Welcome to the latest webinar that the New Jersey Chamber co-hosts with NJM Insurance Group. We have another full series in 2025 with NJM covering many key topics for entrepreneurs and small business owners. The one you are attending today is entitled The Future of Work, Navigating Automation and Upskilling Your Workforce. So let's get started. As automation continues to transform industries, small businesses must adapt to stay competitive. This webinar will discuss how to identify roles that can benefit from automation and where human expertise remains indispensable. You will also learn about affordable ways to upskill employees, take advantage of state and federal workforce development programs, and build a resilient team prepared for the future. As always, I would like to thank NJM Insurance Group for continuing to partner with us on these webinars. NJM has been a great corporate partner for the New Jersey Chamber and a great corporate citizen to the state of New Jersey. It is my pleasure to introduce Donald Allen, Director of Commercial Lines Underwriting for NJM Insurance Group. He would like to say a few words. Good morning, Donald.
Thank you, Kevin. Good morning, everyone. NJM Insurance is pleased to be the exclusive sponsor of the New Jersey Chamber of Commerce's Small Business Webinar Series. Today's speakers will discuss ways to identify opportunities to automate functions without losing human expertise. I want to thank the New Jersey Chamber of Commerce for the opportunity to briefly speak with you this morning. The Chamber has been an essential voice for the Garden State business for more than a century and a vocal advocate in the corridors of the Capitol and Trenton. And NJM has been helping small business meet their insurance needs since 1913. We've been the largest writer of workers' compensation insurance in New Jersey for more than 75 years. We're also a leading provider of commercial auto insurance. We wrote those two lines, and only those two lines, for the better part of a century. However, we've since added products to better serve our policyholders and potential new customers. We've expanded our footprint at the same time. NJM is now a leading regional insurer serving business customers in Connecticut, Delaware, Maryland, New York, Pennsylvania, and New Jersey. NJM ProEdge Business Owners Policy combines protection for common property and liability risks, and it's designed for smaller businesses. And NJM ProPack Commercial Package Policy protects mid to large size businesses against property and liability risks. NJM business policy holders receive the highest level of service, including access to our nationally recognized claim service and certified loss prevention specialists. This focus on safety, long an NJM hallmark, helps business owners identify and correct workplace hazards before accidents occur. And if an injury should happen, our claims and medical service professionals work to mitigate losses and contain claims costs. We take pride in aligning the right coverages for our policyholders, providing an outstanding customer experience, and sharing profits in the form of dividends. We want to help our policyholders grow. In turn, grow with them. If you're not an NJM business customer, I encourage you to visit njm.com to review our agent directory, get a free quote, or contact us with any questions. Thank you. And now it's my pleasure to turn the proceedings back over to Kevin Friedlander, who will serve as moderator today.
Thank you. So we have an expert panel here, and we have Jen Clark, Richard Butkus, a Chamber Board member, Michael Edmondson, and Dale Flavors. I'm going to have them, also a Chamber Board member, and I'm going to have them introduce themselves very briefly and tell us why they're an expert on this topic. So why don't we start with Jen?
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jen Clark. I'm a director at Eisner Amper, and I've spent the last 17 years of my career in technology startups, building software supported by AI and data. During that time, I led teams driving digital transformation and change. So I've seen the topic today firsthand many times. I joined Eisner Amper last year to assist our clients with advanced technology like AI and help people plan for the future of their business and work. So excited to be here today.
Right. Let's hear from Rich.
Hi, hey, thanks, Kevin. My name is Rich Butkus, and I'm the president and managing partner of Control Point Associates Incorporated. We're a professional land surveying, geospatial, and consulting firm that deals primarily with commercial and government type work as far as what we do. And I would consider myself an expert in the field because I'm in an industry that I've been in the industry for the past 30 something years, and we're a very technologically driven industry. At least I'm driving it very technologically. So there.
All right. And Michael.
Hi, good morning, everyone. Thanks for inviting me today. Michael Edmondson, Associate Provost for Continued Learning at the New Jersey Institute of Technology. I lead our Learning and Development Initiative, or LDI, which is a division of both NJIT and the New Jersey Innovation Institute, its wholly owned nonprofit organization. So the LDI connects people to the knowledge and skills they need to succeed. And we do that through courses and events and programs and custom training and workforce development programs. And over the years, I've written my 9th book is coming out later this month or early in April. Not sure when the publisher is releasing it. And it's about the essential skills of high-performing teams. And look, automation has been around for centuries in some shape, form, or fashion. And it's just really fascinating that we're continuing this conversation in the age of AI. So looking forward to today's conversation. Thank you.
Yeah, and Dale.
Morning, everyone. Dale Favors, managing partner for Adaptive Growth Leadership, where we work with a number of companies as well as educational institutions in assisting them in developing their workforce, identifying talent, preparing leaders to lead, and also thinking through what are the challenges for business going forward as you continue to bring in talent, assist that talent in being developed, being nurtured to become future leaders of the organization. So I've been able to develop this skill from a standpoint of thought leadership in this space through my years of working in financial services as a leader for different trading and technology firms, as well as we continue to assist our clients with finding ways to better prepare, better integrate technology into their daily operations, as well as finding ways to continue to generate revenue.
Okay, great. So let's get started. And as Michael said, automation has been around for years, centuries. But in 2025, how would you define automation in the business world that we're in today? So let's start with Dale. We'll just go backwards from our introductions.
I think it's a good point. Michael said it well. I'll say automation is really how businesses and other institutions currently use the machinery and systems that are at hand to improve business operations. And we've seen this over the years, right? So if we go back and we look historically at things, and we'll keep it closer from a historical standpoint, we think of the dot-com era when every company had to figure out how to remain relevant in the era of everyone integrating to utilizing the internet as a way of business, as a way of consuming products and services. We've seen change when it came to the financial crisis and how things had to adjust. And we saw more recently change from a standpoint of when we moved into the period of COVID in which people were working remotely. We had to use new technologies or the existing technologies to do those same things. So this is not new, but it continues to be a conversation, as Michael said.
All right. Michael?
I think the definition of automation is the centuries old, but let's just bring it to the present day. The current struggle of how organizations, and since organizations are made up of individuals, how the individual upskills and reskills to leverage AI to automate some aspect of their job so that, and Dale, thank you for using the R word, so that the organization can remain relevant, right? I mean, the number one challenge today for any organization is how do you remain vital, vibrant, and relevant? And you do that by upskilling your people so that they can leverage the technologies that are available to automate tasks, to then expand their job function so that the organization can remain relevant. And it's super difficult to do. I mean, the acronym today, well, it's been around since the 80s. The military launched it to describe the Cold War. It's VUCA, volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Some of you are shaking your heads. You've heard of it, right? So to survive and thrive in a VUCA world, you have to leverage some form of automation. And we are fortunate to be alive in a world where we have amazing AI tools. And I should stop there because once we get started, I'm going to put myself on mute. So,
Yeah.
Rich, you're a business owner. How do you define
I was going to say, I had to
automation?
follow up after VUCA and all that stuff. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, look, for me, it's all those things, but even more simply, I think the staying relevant part is kind of a factor of what we're talking about here, because from my perspective, I want to grow my business. And I feel like if I'm not moving forward, I'm going backward. And there's a lot of companies that just stay the size that they are forever and they eventually disappear. And because in today's day and age, with the way things are growing and all that. So in reality, for me, it's automation is a necessity because there aren't enough people in the workforce in my realm to do what I need them to do. There just isn't enough people. So I'm forced with either having to scale back my operation to meet the size of the demand of what I have, the supply and demand of the people, or I need to automate in order to grow my business. And that I have no choice. I have no choice in the matter.
Jen?
Yeah, so as a technologist, I tend to think in terms of tools, right? And so when I think about automation, I think about how can I make a machine accomplish a task, right? And so that's a big umbrella. That's everything from kind of what we think about traditional software to data reporting and insights to robotic process automation, and then getting into 2025 and more of the sophisticated tools like we're talking about, right? Machine learning, AI, generative AI, and then now emerging, agentic and multimodal models. And so it's a big umbrella, right tool for the right job is often what I say. And you don't have to jump all the way to AI to, accomplish automation. It really is picking the right tool that's meant for you and your business.
All right, so let's.
Kevin, can I just follow up? I'm sorry, real quick, Kevin.
Sure.
Richards, thank you for saying that. There aren't enough people to do the jobs. I mean, there's a global talent shortage, and you just Google it. You'll see one report after another. And that's why I think as Jen said, it doesn't have to be AI, right? You just leverage the technology because you're not going to have enough people to do all the jobs that need to be done. So thank you for saying that, Richard. That was a good point.
Yeah, so if, a lot of our audience members today, they're small business owners, entrepreneurs, and even from mid-sized companies. So if you're looking and you're hearing about automation, you're hearing about AI and all the benefits and cost savings and all that. But where do you even start? So if you're a small business owner and you're thinking, oh, I should get in on this automation thing, how do you even begin that and determine what roles or tasks should be automated? So why don't we start with Rich? We'll start with you on that one.
How do you start to get
The
into
process.
automation?
Yeah.
Well,
What do you need to consider if you're a small business owner?
I mean, dollars, right? A lot of things are very expensive right now. And that's kind of, I think, one of the things that prohibits people. You talk about AI technology, that's a burdening technology that's just now coming out, and people really don't understand what to do with it. I'll give you a quick example. In my company, one of the evolutionary things in my industry was laser scanning technologies. And that technology came out to the point where we could use it in a business back in the in like 2009, 2010. And I mean, it came out earlier than that, but 2009, 2010 was a time where it really became something that we could use relevantly. And the problem was that the companies that made the hardware really had no concept or clue of how to really use it or apply it to your business. So I adopted it. It took me 5 years of perfecting myself how to use that technology, how to adapt to it, how to make it work for my business. And fortunately, we had the wherewithal to do that. Most companies don't. So that's the real struggle, is you really have to be an entrepreneur and you're kind of starting over looking into things. And a lot of people dump a lot of money into software programs that they never use and all these different things. So it's complicated. It's not easy. And hopefully there's people out there, consultants that can help people to get to the right place. And that's probably where you'd want to start, is trying to find somebody who knows the industry, knows the technology.
Dale, any thoughts on that?
I think it's those are good points, Richard. And I believe what can happen is small business owners can find ways to begin to integrate this technology because they have to, right? And here's some simple ways. And we're working with different companies with this type of stuff. You could identify a way to utilize AI to circulate to talent search for. So to search for talent, sorry. So what happens is you could say, hey, listen, we have a few jobs open, but we're going to utilize an AI platform to search through the resumes that we're receiving so that we can identify and look for and identify keywords so we can find the talent and a smaller group of that talent pool out of the original people who have applied for the job. So that's one way to do it. Another way to do it is you may say, listen, I currently have a group of people who answer calls for clients when they call in. How about I use AI to do that function, and I can utilize these individuals in a different way, so I can help them develop a skill that may be more in line with what I could use them for today, and we can use this AI platform to do a lot of our customer service entry level calls, right? And they can be part of a higher level call situation. But there's different ways that you can utilize the technology out there, and I think that every business has to be encouraged to look into how they could use it.
Yeah. Jen, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'll echo kind of Rich's point around experimenting, right? Is like there are a lot of free tools available out there. Want to be very careful with what you put in public tools. That's always my disclaimer. Information that goes into public tools goes back into the model to train it. So be very cautious. But using what's available freely and really trying to like wrap your head around it and experimenting with it. And then once you've done that and kind of giving yourself space in your day-to-day to do that, right, is like, holding yourself accountable every week to have an hour or two to try these things out. The thing that I always coach people on is find something repeatable that has a predictable outcome and can be easily reviewed. You never want to start with something that's a little bit different every time or requires a lot of human review time. Like you don't want to start somewhere where you're concerned about errors or mistakes, like your invoicing. You'd want to start with a use case that's repeatable and has like human review built in. So your communications or maybe your scheduling, right? Like something that you can actually see and kind of has a human in the loop is what we call it. And then just start small, just act, right? Just take small actions and that builds momentum and you'll sort of get your head around kind of the cost implications and all the things that Rich was talking about as well, but really just starting with that experimentation kind of mindset.
So Rich mentioned costs could be very expensive, but there's some tools out there. I think you were just referencing like a Chat GPT. So how could a small business use a Chat GPT to automate some functions?
Yeah, so ChatGPT is my favorite example just because it is kind of the most, like I like to call it, it's like a chief of staff, right? It's like sort of has a personality of that. And it's going to be text-based. So you've got to think about use cases where you're, researching or drafting or doing those kind of activities. You can go to chatgpt.com, you can get a login, you don't have to pay for it, but that's where I will caution that anything that goes into the model will any information that you pass through it when you ask it a question goes into sort of like the public model, right? So you want to be very cautious with that. But there are very cheap tiers. I think they're like $20 a month where you start to get kind of that like team protection where your information stays your information. And it has a bunch of just options, right? As again, experiment. There's ways to build your own, what they call like your own GPTs, where you can kind of coach it to answer in a certain way. So what I like to tell my clients is to, if you have like a workflow, right, where you're answering kind of customer service answers. A t-shirt shop came to me the other day. It's like I get the same workflow of I need a different size, right? And so to use ChatGPT to kind of figure out what the automation was going to be and kind of how her communication was going to go back and forth. And then she went into her Gmail and she built the templates out and now that's all automated for her. So just kind of like, again, using that experimentation framework. And then once you've used the kind of free tools and kind of played around with it, really starting to look about how you can kind of get that next level of like data protection is really what you want to be cautious about.
Okay, Michael, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I think the best way for a small business owner to identify a forward step is to really, they could do a couple of things, right? And NJIT is an educational institution. So we have assessments that they can take, we have free workshops, and we do see ourselves as a partner for the small business owner that needs help understanding. I just had was it Thursday or Friday? I had a meeting with a significant player in the state. It was the leadership team. And they said openly, look, we want to use AI, but we don't know what we don't know. And I said, great, you've come to the right place. We're going to help you do an assessment, figure out like where your immediate needs are, because you can't do everything all at once. And then figure out who on your team would like to experiment, as Jen said, right? There are some people that are just more comfortable doing that and others that aren't. And more importantly, which job functions, could use help with an automation if it's an AI tool or something else. So I think doing an assessment, and there are assessments online, we offer free workshops every month. So I think, from an educational perspective, I'm always looking at it through the lens of upskilling and reskilling. And I do admire the people that just openly say, look, I don't know what I don't know, and I need some more information. So, I mean, that's the short of it. A book I'll recommend is Super Agency by Reid Hoffman. Reid Hoffman is the co-founder of LinkedIn, and his latest book is Super Agency. And in it, he talks about how being alive today means you're going to have to upskill, not just for work, but in your personal life too. Right. And I think I don't know if anybody has kids or grandkids or whatever, but you don't want them downloading just anything, right? Or using just any AI tool, as Jen said. Whatever Jen said also applies to your personal usage of technology, not just for work.
I always tell
I,
people read your T's and C's.
Yes, that's right. That's right.
I'll tell you, Kevin, I was at, and this is to Michael's point, it's being their experimentation is taking place everywhere, and implementation is happening in many organizations, including colleges and universities, right? Where I do some work with a local college, and we had a session with all the faculty discussing how this can be integrated and implemented in the classroom. But then I also was at a conference last week, and a lawyer for a major law firm was talking about how he's used it to scan documents. So chat GPT, whatever. Hey, look, summarize this 250-page document. Give me some thoughts of what's in here. And it can do those types of things. So these are ways to, and he said for him, that's beneficial because that takes two and a half hours of time that he would have used reading through that 250-page document, and he can give some of that time back to his family. So if you think about this as a productivity tool, it's definitely there for that purpose.
So just off the top of your heads, what with either the companies you're consulting with or your own companies, what are just name top few job functions that could use some automation using these AI tools? Jen, what would you say are some recurring job functions?
So kind of twofold, right? So from a job family perspective, right? I'm seeing it kind of the most in technology, right? Is my developers use generative AI to help them write code, right? And there's a lot of use cases sort of around technology. There's so much in communications and HR. There's so much you could do with the summaries and the drafting, right? Again, I'll caution, these things are not infallible. You have to review when you use these tools, but the kind of like anything when you think like, I got to read a bunch of stuff, I got to write a bunch of stuff, is like, I coach people, if you're met with a blank page, try one of like the generative chat tools, right? Is like just to get you started and get you flowing. And then from like just a, day to day, right? As Michael was saying, right? There's a ton that can be done with emails and scheduling and all of that, like we call toil, right? As like administrative toil, and using the tools to really kind of find efficiency there so you can focus on what actually brings you revenue and makes you special as a business, I think is a great place to get started.
Rich, any?
Well, I think automation is going to be a game changer for small businesses to allow people to operate more efficiently for sure and reduce overhead and all those things. I think from my perspective, we're talking a lot about AI right now, which is going to be a massively huge thing. I mean, my company, I've actually created a company. I'm going all in. I've created an AI software development company that's going to help program not only the AI technologies. So, for instance, we have CAD drafters, right? Computer-aided design. And we have people physically sitting at computers doing CAD work. And there's been auto list routines, if you know what that is or not, but ways that they have automated over the years, but nothing with intelligence. So AI is going to be a game changer in that realm. But more so, I work in a physical space, right? So I think that, you have to ask yourselves how to, there was an interesting article that came out that said that some of the job roles that are going to be the most important in the future aren't going to be the high technology IT driven things. It's going to be plumbers and electricians because people are going to still live in houses until they're just brains and not functional anymore, right? So you're still going to be living in houses. You're still going to need plumbing, electrical, carpentry. Those are going to become the skills that are going to be. So how do you automate those things? Well, I have field crews that physically work out in the field, right? They go out, they locate data. They're data collectors with highly skilled technical knowledge, right? But again, there's not enough of those people. So we're going to buy robots and we're going to then have our AI engineer or software developers train those robots so that now I can have one of my highly technologically advanced people now using 3 robots to now do 3 times the efficiency on a project. Like that's kind of where things are going to go for me anyway.
All right, Dale.
Yeah, I look at this and you're exactly right, Rich. What's going to happen is as people begin to embrace the technology, which is what, the conversation is, what is the future of work? And the future of work is encouraging as many people as possible to embrace technology as soon as possible, to identify ways that they can use it to enhance what they do. And in doing that, they may find that they're now using different skills to do similar work, but they may also develop another skill set, which is the most important thing. You have to develop cross-functional skill sets. And so you talked about a plumber, you talked about whether there's an organization right now that's building homes using a 3D printer, right? This is new technology. This is automation. This is what we're talking about. And if you think about this is what's taking place. And if we go back through history, as I think Michael and Jen talked about earlier, history helps us understand that the world is going to evolve. You have to figure out how you're going to stay competitive. We think about different roles that existed at a time way before us. A blacksmith, right? That blacksmith was doing a number of jobs, including changing horseshoes. Guess what? It doesn't exist anymore. But the blacksmith didn't stop working. The blacksmith had to figure out how to find a different job. Now that blacksmith may have become an auto mechanic because cars end up taking the place of horses. I have something very close to that. You think of Blockbuster. We all remember Blockbuster. Blockbuster existed and we could go there and get our videos, but someone else found a different way to provide you with the same service, just more efficiently. Netflix, right? And so you think about Blockbuster went away, but the business of watching movies never went away. It's just the way we watch and the way we consume it is different. You think about robo advisors in the space of asset management and wealth management. Robo advisors exist to provide some automation for those that need that level of service. If you need a higher level of service, that financial advisor still exists. The human financial advisor still exists, but having that robo advisor assist that financial advisor in serving 200 or whatever number of clients they have. So, it's just the evolution and the embracing of utilizing the technology. That's the most important thing.
Michael?
Yeah, the historian in me has to just give a 30-second preface, so my apologies, but I think this is truly valuable. When the written word became apparent and possible in ancient Greece, right? I think it was Plato or Socrates said, this is the end of human civilization because the form of communication was oral, speech. That was all man knew. So what we're dealing with now is just our generation's attempt to figure out how to come to grips with the latest form of technology. And it started with the written word. The printing press revolutionized humanity, right? So, and I say that to say, here's the segue. When you said, like, what types of jobs are going to be suited for automation, and Jen and Dale and Richard have said all excellent. The only thing I'm going to add, because I can't add much to the excellent answers, is no job is safe, right? We haven't said that yet. And I point to, there's a company, and I got to commit this to memory, and I don't know what it is, just Google it. There's a company, it's a startup, its sole purpose is to get its AI platform to be a certified primary care physician. Because there have been plenty of studies out there that when they compare physicians diagnosing paperwork and then physicians with an AI tool versus just an AI tool, the AI tool alone outperforms physicians all the time. And the primary reason for this, Kevin, is because medical knowledge doubles every 73 days in this country. You can't possibly keep up with it. So no job is safe in today's world, which is both frightening, an existential threat, and also wildly exciting.
So it's exciting and there's a lot of benefits to companies, but when employees hear the term, oh, we're going to start automating some functions from management, obviously people right away go to the darkest place and say, oh my God, I'm going to lose my job. So how do companies communicate to the employees about automation and how the company's going to go about it? And so what's the proper way to do it? I'm going to start with Jen.
Yeah, I would say, kind of building on what Michael just said, right, is like no job is safe. So
That's the first thing you should say to the employee.
Well, no, I was going to say it's important to have a very cohesive communication strategy, right? So transparently, early and often, right? And it will hit, even if, you're starting with a particular team or you're starting with a particular job function, other job functions hear about that through the grapevine, right? And so having sort of this transparency around, we're making this investment, we want to be more efficient, we want to be more productive, we want to build, we want to grow, whatever kind of the goal is with automation, and taking employees along with it, right? I think that's how you create cultures of innovation, because you can't, you just can't succeed without your human expertise. And so it's really important to make them feel kind of comforted and understand what's going on.
Yeah. And Rich, how have you gone about it in your company?
Well, look, my company is 300 people, roughly strong, and I want to double my business, and I want to double it like tomorrow. So I can't find 300 people tomorrow, right? So I think a common misconception is that automation is about replacing jobs, and for my case, it really isn't. The reality is that automation is going to enhance our abilities, like I said earlier, and at the end of the day, I can have my very highly technically trained great employees be able to use automation to elevate themselves in their careers, because now instead of one person doing one job, one person can be managing the job of 3 or 4 or 5 other applications, and that makes them more valuable to the organization. And I can grow double the size of my business by not doubling the size of the amount of people that are working here.
Dale?
That's so spot on, right? The organization, the leaders in any organization, the job is to control the fear. And the way you do that is you have to get employees to embrace the shift in business trends. And if they embrace the shift in business trends, the opportunity is that they will develop a set of skills that will help them remain relevant to not just this organization, but others. And that's why I talked about earlier about the importance of developing cross-disciplinary skill sets. And in that case, those individuals become change agents for not just the organization, but beyond. And so now they're coming up with ideas of how to utilize this technology to enhance productivity at the firm, thereby generating more revenue. So like Richard said, he may not need to add more people. He just has to help the people that are there become smarter, and they will tell him, hey, look, maybe we need a few more bodies, but we can, with those few more bodies, we can enhance productivity. And so that's there. And I believe Michael and I, who also have some ties to higher education, it's up to us to do the work, the pre-work. And that pre-work is encouraging young students to be curious. They embrace technology every day, new technology they're probably so comfortable with, but they haven't yet always figured out how to transition that playing with technology, buying and consuming product and services via that technology, to then how does that relate to walking into a business and being a contributor. And that's where we have to do that job. And the other job is the leaders in those organizations doing 4 things: helping employees stay motivated, engaged, committed, and incentivizing them through the proper compensation. I think that's what we have to do.
Hey, and Kevin, if I could add one thing for those on the call that might have small businesses. I mean, small businesses right now have a unique opportunity here because unlike large corporations that are burdened by the bureaucracy and all the nonsense, smaller firms can be extremely agile in adapting this technology now and move very fast to do so, So automation actually levels the playing field for, I think, the smaller businesses compared to the bigger businesses and allows them to do a lot more with a lot less.
Michael, so there's training that needs to be involved in this, and people maybe they won't be doing one skill, but they'll be learning other skills. So how do you prepare the workforce for changes in job responsibilities or taking on new responsibilities?
It's a great question, and it's a segue from the prior question. Excuse me. The first responsibility of a leader is to define reality. And I think Richard said it well, right? You have the capabilities right now to do so much that you didn't didn't have prior to that time in history. But more importantly, once you define reality as a leader, you have to demonstrate lifelong learning. Because the number one skill for all employees is lifelong learning. AI isn't going to replace your job. What's going to replace your job is a person that knows how to leverage AI. That's what's going to replace your job. That's a huge misconception out there. The World Economic Forum published its Future Jobs Report in January of this year. I highly recommend it's free online. It's amazing. Go read it. I mean, it's over 190 pages. Just read the first 20. You'll be fine. And the whole crux of it is, look, whatever industry, whatever country you're in, as a leader, your job is to help each person on your team have the right mix of human and technical skills. And we are forgetting that we're human. And I don't want to go down that black hole, but there's a lot of inhumanity going on right now. Part of it's because of technology reliance, and there's other factors we're going to get into. But I think those that are going to remain relevant and be successful are going to leverage technology like Richard's doing, right? Having one person using the different robots to do the work of 3 people, which is amazing. But also, let's not forget the humanity. And we do that by saying, I'm a lifelong learner, and I need everybody on my team to demonstrate lifelong learning. Like we're launching an AI literacy micro-credential, for example. It's 10 courses, 2 hours each, it's 20 hours. You complete it, you get an NJIT digital badge, right? We're launching it in a few weeks, right? And everybody on my team has to take it. Like, we have part of my team's building it, but everyone else on the team has to take it. And we're going to offer it to the students and the faculty and the staff at NJIT. And we're going to, we're going to obviously sell it, around the world. And it's fascinating because I already started having conversations to many senior leaders about the AI literacy micro-credential. And pretty much to a person are like, yeah, I need that. I hear AI all the time, but I can't define it. Like, we're not going to do it now, but there's 5 of us on the screen here. If we each define AI, it's going to look a little bit different, right? And so to answer your question, you've got to be a lifelong learner as a leader. You have to demonstrate it and you have to require it. I think it's the #1 skill set you're going to need. And Richard, I would imagine that the people you hire have to be comfortable learning how to deal with robots, right?
Absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely. But look, I think to the earlier point, I think soft skills like problem solving, critical thinking,
Yes.
relationship building
yes.
are always going to be essential, and no amount of automation is going to replace human intuition and leadership. I mean,
That's
honestly.
right. Yeah, well said. Well said.
And I think one of the pieces that in some of the training that we provide is so important. You said this, Michael, and just one, the lifelong learning is just that's the key essential. And I'm sure, Jen, and what you guys do in serving your clients, right, as a whether it's the public accounting side, whether it's the audit side, it's all about communication.
Yes.
And if we all realize that the human aspect of this is our ability to communicate in all different formats, verbal, written, as well as your ability to listen, right? That's part of communicating. And then the other side, the other piece that Michael brought up, the human side, is to have empathy. You have to have empathy because you have to have an understanding of everyone's not going to take on or embrace this as fast as another person, right? They're not at the same speed. And then we have to build relationships, as Richard said. The relationships, business is still business. People do business with people they like, they trust, right, and that they want to see be successful. Yeah. And then the last part of that is we have to remain and be curious, because the curiosity leads to innovation.
That's right.
And that's why we are where we are, right? This is going to be the fastest transition of a new technology, no question at all. We're already seeing the capital expenditures that are taking place to implement this at different organizations. And we're also watching as all these leaders of these major organizations are looking to grasp as much data as possible so that they can feed into these particular AI platforms. But the key piece is you still have to be able to build relationships, right, communicate effectively, have empathy, and be curious.
Yeah, if I could just tack on to that, I deal with a lot of smart people, right? I have a PhD, a lot of PhDs, very highly successful business professionals. And I see a lot of fixed mindsets. I see a lot of people, Jen shaking her head, she knows exactly what I'm talking about. Very smart people are not agile thinkers. They're not lifelong learners. They're at the top of their game and they know it all. I'm a first gen from Southwest Philly. I mean, I don't know much. I just love learning. I love learning every day. I'm always reading, learning, studying, speaking. I learned a couple things on today's, webinar. So you've got to look in the mirror and say, am I really committed to lifelong learning, or must I demonstrate how smart I am? So,
Jen, you keep shaking your head. Do you want to respond to?
Yeah, I was just going to build on that, right? Is like everything that we're talking about is, AI and sort of this new round of AI, right? Generative, agentic, is a paradigm shift. And I heard a quote recently that was like, everything earned with effort will soon be dead, right? So this, again, but building on what Michael was saying, right, is like this fixed mindset is really going to be a limiter for some people in this like next generation of the future of work. And what Rich was talking about is like really honing in on those human skills of relationship building, problem solving, critical thinking. That's what's going to be sort of the necessity to be the kind of leaders of this like next generation. And getting sort of overly wrapped up in the latest capabilities or, the exact kind of things that are coming out of AI. I think people are overwhelmed by the speed of information. And so leaning back on, I'm going to learn, I'm going to experiment, I'm going to communicate, and I'm going to use this as a tool is really going to help you succeed.
All right. The hour is going by very quickly. If anyone has any questions, put them in the chat box and we'll try to get to them. So we've covered a lot, and probably people are even they have more questions probably than answers. So if you want to get started in all this, or you need some assistance to understand it even further because you're not going to learn it all in 45 minutes, what role do community colleges or trade schools or any industry groups that can assist in getting people to better understand how to get started in this? So, Michael, you're in
Sure.
education. What role do colleges, universities play in all this?
Yeah, we've got an excellent community college system in this state. I've worked at a few of them. We have an excellent, K through 12 system in the state. My kids went through it. And obviously an excellent university system. So we do a lot of right things. What I have found in my many decades career is that people just don't know about it. So I would just recommend you connect with your local chamber of commerce. Start there. Always, like, there's a local chamber of commerce. There could be a regional chamber of commerce. And then connect with your community college or just go on the website, right? And like I said, at NJIT, for the Learning and Development Initiative, we offer free programming. We offer free workshops. So, and there are some things that are free. And if nothing else, generally people will talk to you. I mean, I find people that work in education at all levels are very sincere about being learner-centered, and they want to help people. So I would just reach out, and you can Google me, you can find me on LinkedIn. I'll be happy to help and support you any way that I can. I'll put my email in the chat, and I'll be happy to do what I can. So, yeah.
Dale?
Yeah, I think you brought up LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great platform. If you
Right.
utilize the LinkedIn Learning platform, portion of the platform, there's enough education on that to get the things you need to get to possibly get started. I encourage a number of the universities have online programs that you could do at your own pace, or at specific times that they may have a in-person class or what have you. But Michael said it best. You have to remain curious and be a lifelong learner. If you're not doing that, you're not going to be able to stay competitive, right? And our job is to encourage our workforce to remain competitive, because that's what makes us the country we are, right? We have a very diverse workforce that is diverse in thought, that's diverse in ethnicity and talent. And that together has allowed us to be one of the most innovative countries, developing all types of, whether it's technology, whether it's machinery, whatever it happens to be, ways of doing business, right? Our financial services industry is, bar none, the best in the world. And those are the things that keeps us where we are, our ability to continue to innovate. So I think we have to encourage all of the people who work for us, who work for other people, to remain curious and be lifelong learners, as Michael said.
Rich?
Well, I think businesses should definitely invest in continuing education for sure, as well as individuals themselves. But that's the age-old thing, right? I mean, forever and ever and ever, how do you train your employees? How do you make it valuable? What does all that mean? And so for companies like ours, we have training programs that we invest in for our people. Hopefully they get something out of it, which I think they do because it seems productive. But at the end of the day, it's up to everybody to want to
Right.
be able to learn. And that's the pulling people into the next century, I guess.
Okay. Jen?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to echo what Michael and Dale said, right? Is like, first is connect, right? Connect in your community and understand others are trying to tackle the same problems. You don't feel like you have to go it alone. And then the other thing is this is technology, right? There's a very open source approach to a lot of the tools that are coming out. And so you can find a lot of great resources, podcasts. LinkedIn, as Dale mentioned, is a great area to kind of look into. One of my favorite researchers is Ethan Mullick. You can find him on LinkedIn. He's wrote a book called Co-Intelligence, really just practical kind of hands-on guidance of like what's coming out. And like pick one, right? It's like don't feel overwhelmed to, follow every newsletter, every, press release, right? Is pick one researcher, pick one newsletter, follow one podcast, and just kind of keep a touch on it while working with your community just to learn how others are solving the problems.
Now, if you choose to do nothing and not incorporate any automation, where will the company be 5, 10 years from now? Just thoughts. Rich,
We chose to do no automation.
you get off this.
I couldn't even fathom it, to be honest with you. I don't know that we would have a company, to be honest with you.
Right.
I don't even know that we would have a company. Seriously, I don't think we would exist. Yeah.
Jen?
It's kind of scary, actually, but the
Yeah.
reality.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a common misconception, right? Is that people can kind of wait and see and that somebody else is going to figure it out. And the truth is, especially in this kind of new world of AI, is there's no guidebook, right? A lot of really successful implementations require customized business knowledge. And so just getting started, like you cannot wait. You cannot wait because you will get left behind, as Rich said.
Yeah. Michael?
I'll refer to my favorite definition of change in higher education. Change in higher education is like an oil tanker leaking oil, trying to make a U-turn in the middle of the ocean, right? It takes so long. And evidence of that came out yesterday. Moody's, the investment agency head, in December gave higher education as an industry like a positive outlook. And yesterday they downgraded it to negative. And one of the reasons is because higher ed does not move fast enough. So to answer your question, Kevin, where would a school be? Elementary, middle, high school, tech school, community college, four-year university, where would it be? It'd be closed. And they're already closing, right?
I was going to say, you almost have to ask yourself, and no offense to NJIT, because it's an awesome institution, and many of my surveyors are licensed from there.
Well, that's good. Thank you.
But seriously, it's an awesome school, very, very committed. But I guess you have to almost look at like everybody has the world dictionary in their pocket now, including children. So
That's right.
I think learning, colleges, schools, high schools, elementary schools are going to change significantly over the next 10 years because what are we learning in school? 2 + 2 = 4. You don't need it anymore. You just ask chat, right?
That's right.
So, and that used to be what they said about calculators, right?
That's right. That's right. No, you're a great point, right? The axiom is the sage on the stage, right? The professor pontificating in front of the chalkboard and everyone taking notes, and then you regurgitate what you learned in form of an exam or an essay or project. So no, the way education is changing will only accelerate as the tools, there's a preponderance, right, of tools. And so schools have to adapt. And you're right, Rich. They do have to adapt, and some are not. So.
But the one thing that you can't replace by not going to a school, regardless of what level, is the human interaction aspect.
That's right. That's
a big part of it. So.
For sure. Yeah.
So the one thing I've learned today is become a plumber or an electrician. Right?
The world's always going to need plumbers and electricians and carpenters.
Has anybody here tried to call a plumber or an electrician recently to get them to their house?
Right. Not easy. Dale, your thoughts?
No, yeah. Hey, look, it takes a while if you don't have the right connections. That's why relationships are important.
That's right.
Text me if you know one.
This.
So.
The sense of urgency that we must have to prepare our people, our young people specifically, to be ready to engage in this VUCA world, as you talked about earlier, it's essential. We have to do it. The critical thinking skills are the most important. There is examples of what you talked about, Michael, NJIT is NJIT because they're innovative in how they're training and developing future leaders in all forms of business and industry, including technology and engineering and so on and so forth. The other side of that is you have the, institutions are challenged. And so you had Kane University recently acquire, I think, New Jersey City University. And that's essential to taking that valuable institution and blending those two together is going to create something that I think is very positive for the state. There's something that I'll bring up a book. It's called What's the Future and Why Is It Up to Us? Tim O'Reilly. Yeah. I read this and I thought it was tremendously important and relevant to what we're talking about today. So I had to bring it up because I think that right there will help. If people read that, you'll get an understanding of historically how things have changed, but also how you can embrace change and take advantage of what's out here for us. I think we're all trying to encourage businesses to do such. And in our effective ways that we're doing it, we're getting that message out. And I'm just thankful to be part of this group today. And Kevin, I hand it back to you.
Yeah, so we're at time. So I want to thank Jen, Richard, Michael, Dale for an informed discussion. Your insights touched on a lot of important issues, and hopefully today's program helped the webinar participants to better navigate these transformational times. Before we part ways, I'd like to just let you know that our next NJM webinar will be May 1st, and the topic is marketing on a shoestring budget in 2025. And it sounds like ChatGPT can help with that. So yeah, they'll be sending out more information on that in the coming days. And of course, I want to once again thank NJM Insurance Group for sponsoring this webinar series, and everybody have a great rest of the day. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Kevin.
Take care.
Bye-bye. Thanks, everybody.